The Sahara Desert. The surface temperature exceeds 70 degrees. Any organic matter will be baked into ashes. But in 2003, someone dug up two female corpses from 7,000 years ago, with skin still intact. Not fragments, not fossils, it was a whole piece of human skin attached to the bones. It took scientists 20 years to extract the complete genome, and after the results came out, no one in the research team said a word, because the DNA of these two women did not belong to any known human group on Earth, neither alive nor the dead. They were a branch that completely disappeared from the human tree. They survived alone for tens of thousands of years, and then disappeared from the Earth and evaporated from the Earth. Scientists gave them a name, the ghost population. But they are not the only ghosts. They were just the first to be caught. You think human evolution is a straight line all the way to the present. Wrong. The real human history is more like a repeatedly revised draft paper. There are people on it, shadows and notes, but the original has been torn to shreds. Let me tell you the first case. In 1928, in Denisova Cave in Siberia, Russia, archaeologists found a finger bone inside. It belonged to a girl under 10 years old. After extracting DNA, the researchers were directly stunned. The genes in this bone, neither modern humans nor the Neanderthals known at the time. It was a third thing. They named this group Denisovans. But the problem is, this finger bone was found. What did their faces look like? What language did they speak? Where did they go? No one knows. As of now, the Denisovan fossils found worldwide add up to only a fragmented mandible, a finger bone, a skull fragment, and 3 teeth. With these things, scientists have actually reconstructed their genome. Then they discovered an even more bizarre thing. Denisovans, though living on the ice plains of Siberia, but today's people in Papua New Guinea have nearly 5% of DNA that matches them exactly. You know, from Siberia to Papua New Guinea is more than 7,000 kilometers. How did these people cross across half the world, without ships or maps? Without any answer. They only left their genes without leaving a story. But the story is not over. In 2018, in Denisova Cave, scientists found another bone fragment. After genetic identification, this bone belonged to a girl. Her mother was a Neanderthal, and her father was Denisovan. Two already mysterious populations in the same cave left a hybrid child. This child is the only one on Earth so far, the only documented interspecies offspring. He has no name. How long he lived? No one knows. What expression he had when he died? No one knows. But his bones tell us people of that era were far more complex than we thought. They met, they fused, and then disappeared together in time. Well, now the more bizarre part comes. Since there are Denisovans and Neanderthals, scientists wanted to figure out what the relationship between these two groups of ancient humans, so they began to trace back those unknown DNA fragments. In 2022, Swedish geneticist Svante Pääbo, for his research on ancient human genomes, won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. His conclusion overturned the entire textbook. He found that all modern humans outside of Africa carry about 2% Neanderthal DNA. It's not metaphor, but real genetic fragments.
Chinese people have it, Europeans have it, and Native Americans have it too. That is to say, about 50,000 years ago, our ancestors were on their way out of Africa. They met Neanderthals, and then they intermarried. But you should know that Neanderthals didn't live an easy life. Their group size was very small. 80% of them didn't live past 40. They could use fire, could make tools. There is even evidence that they knew how to bury the dead and cared for the injured. They were not beasts. They were like humans. Then they disappeared. Completely disappeared. Only 2% of our genes are left. Like a letter never sent, hidden deep in everyone's cells. But this is not the deepest layer. Ghost scientists continued to dig deeper. They found that in the genomes of some West African groups, there is a more ancient and strange DNA. This gene does not belong to Neanderthals, nor Denisovans, nor any known ancient human. After calculation, it came from a population that was about 360,000 to 1,200,000 years ago, had already separated. The time of separation much earlier than we separated from Neanderthals. In other words, on this African continent, there once existed a group of people. They, while our ancestors were still evolving slowly, had already lived in some corner of Africa, lived alone for hundreds of thousands of years. Who were they? What did they look like? Did they speak? To this day, there is no fossil, or any tools, or any physical evidence. Only a shadow hidden in the DNA of modern people. This is the ghost. The true meaning of the word population. Not a story or legends. It's your genes that are testifying for them. In May 2020, the international journal Science published a major study. Fu Xiaomei's team from the Chinese Academy of Sciences sequenced 127 ancient human genomes. In Xingyi site in Yunnan, they found an ancient human individual dated 7,000 years. In this person's genome, he carried a previously unidentified, deeply differentiated Asian genetic component. And this component has solved a mystery that has puzzled the academic world for years. Do you know Tibet, where the average altitude is over 4,500 meters? Ordinary people will have altitude sickness there, and even life-threatening. But Tibetans have lived there for thousands of years. But scientists have always wanted to know the reason. Later, it was discovered that Tibetans carry a genetic variation called EPAS1, allowing them to efficiently carry oxygen in low-oxygen environments. This gene comes from Denisovans. But what's even more bizarre is that there's another 20% of their genomes, but its origin has never been found. Academia calls it the ghost ancestor of the Qinghai Tibet Plateau. The new ancient human found by Fu Xiaomei's team is the prototype of this ghost, a group that has no record in historical books. They lived in Yunnan 7,000 years ago. They passed on their bloodline, quietly passed on to the later Tibetan people who moved to the plateau, and then disappeared. This is no longer a metaphor. It's archaeology in genes. It's an archaeological record written in DNA. It's older than any written records and more honest. Now I want you to think about a question. Why these ghost populations disappeared? Were they wiped out by our ancestors? It's possible that around 50,000 to 30,000 years ago, the global climate changed dramatically. Glaciers advanced, and food scarcity, and all human groups were competing for survival resources. During that time, the human species on Earth reduced from at least 6 or 7 species, quickly decreased to only 1 species left. Behind every disappearing population was a real elimination. But scientists also found that they didn't really disappear. They left in another way. They hid in our genes. Every breath you breathe, your immune system, your ability to adapt to high-altitude environments, your brain that can think, feel, and feel sadness, contains a part of them. The latest global genetic research shows that the ancestors of modern humans came from at least 2 highly differentiated ancient populations. Fusion. Modeling results from geneticists at Cambridge University show that mysterious population contributed nearly 20% of our DNA and may have directly promoted the improvement of human brain function. What does this mean? It means that the knowledge and abilities we have today, all art, language, and civilization, may be the product of a fusion. It's not something we evolved on our own, but by us and those ghosts that have disappeared, created together. So the next time someone asks you where we come from, you can tell them we come from many places. From the African grasslands, from the frozen land of Siberia, from the valleys of Yunnan, from the yellow shand of the Sahara, from those with names and those without names, those who left fossils and those who left nothing behind. Thousands of disappeared people. They are called ghosts. But ghosts don't represent falsehood. On the contrary, they are the truest part of all of us, because they live in your DNA and never left.